This video is sponsored by Topps MLB Bunt. Topps MLB Bunt is an officially licensed MLB card trading app, and they're currently running a limited-time Derek Jeter event featuring unique video and motion cards that celebrate his career and include his own commentary. You can download Topps MLB Bunt for free using my link in the description. It's April 14th, 1920. Opening day at Shibe Park, home of the Philadelphia Athletics. The visiting New York Yankees have a new look. In center field stands their star acquisition from the Boston Red Sox that offseason, Babe Ruth. In the coming years, he'll fundamentally change the way baseball is played and become the first modern celebrity in the process. But for now, he simply tries to navigate his responsibilities in center field while collecting 2 singles at the plate. The success of Ruth and the many greats and pinstripes who followed him led to championship after championship after championship for the Yankees, 27 in total, the first of which came in 1923 and the most recent of which was achieved in 2009. But that's not actually what this video is about. While the Yankees have created multiple dynasties across vastly different eras of the game, I want to talk about their 100-year dynasty that began on that fateful opening day in 1920. In the century since Babe Ruth made his Yankee debut in center, the evil empire has dominated the center fielder position unlike anything Major League Baseball has ever seen, and there's no end in sight. Of course, Babe Ruth wasn't a center fielder by trade, as he quickly settled into a corner outfield spot with the Yankees. The early 20s Yankees used primarily Elmer Miller, followed by Whitey Witt in center. 2 forgettable careers, but I'm now going to repeat their names so you'll remember them for the rest of your life. Elmer Miller and Whitey Witt. On April 14th, 1925, exactly 5 years after Ruth made his Yankees debut, a 25-year-old center fielder played his first game in pinstripes. His name was Earle Combs. Combs quickly established himself as one of the premier outfielders on the American League's best team. In 1927, he was part of the Murderers Row Yankees that is basically the default answer for the greatest baseball team ever assembled. How good was that lineup? Well, in MLB history, there have been just 20 individual seasons of at least 1,200 OPS. That's on base plus slugging. Babe Ruth did it 6 times, Barry Bonds did it 4 times in a row in the early 2000s, and Ted Williams did it with 16 years and 2 wars in between, and a few others managed it once. So what made the 1927 Yankees so special? Lightning struck twice. And it's easy to focus on what Gehrig and Ruth did that season, but batting in front of them was Earle Combs with a whopping 231 hits. Combs was a hit machine. He had 200 more knocks than any other center fielder from 1925 to 1935. In 1936, the Yankees had a new rookie outfielder in town. Through his first 81 games, a youngster by the name of Joe DiMaggio took the baseball world by storm, hitting .344 and slugging over .600, and it was on his 82nd game that he first played center field for the Yankees, the position he would call home for the rest of his illustrious career. The following season, he became just the 2nd center fielder to hit 40 home runs in a year. DiMaggio's most famous accomplishment, his 56-game hit streak, is occasionally downplayed in sabermetric circles. He won MVP that year despite Ted Williams hitting over .400 and hitting better than DiMaggio during Joltin' Joe's own streak. But as a numbers man myself, I also can't deny that Joe DiMaggio has more name drops in famous Simon and Garfunkel songs. It's a draw. Obsessing over the triple slash lines aside, the Yankees won 10 pennants and 9 World Series with DiMaggio, the last of which came in 1951 against the New York Giants, who sported a 20-year-old wunderkind named Willie Mays. In Game 2 of that series, Mays hit a fly ball toward the right center field gap. DiMaggio, playing center, began to chase down the ball, and so did the Yankees' young right fielder. What followed next was disastrous. DiMaggio caught the ball. The right fielder pulled up, recognizing it was DiMaggio's play to make. But in doing so, he tripped over an exposed drain pipe, completely destroying his knee in the process. That right fielder was Mickey Mantle. He was only 19 years old. The injury required multiple surgeries. It has since been posited that Mantle tore his meniscus, ACL, and MCL on the play, and that given the lack of medical knowledge in 1951, Mantle played his entire career on an unrepaired ACL. Such a traumatic injury definitely slowed him down, but it didn't stop him. Mickey Mantle was Mike Trout. Mike Trout was Mickey Mantle. In some ways, Trout seems incomparable to anyone, yet Mantle put up shockingly similar numbers at the same ages. They both shared a prodigious ability to control the strike zone. The Commerce Comet had 8 seasons with at least 100 walks, and the Millville Meteor currently sits at 4. In 1956 and 1957, Mantle put together arguably the 2 greatest seasons by any center fielder. Back-to-back 11 WAR campaigns, each culminating in an MVP award. And when we adjust for the run environment with OPS+, those 2 seasons remain the greatest offensive seasons by any center fielder in MLB history. Back to back. Mantle played his last game in center field in 1966, ending an unprecedented streak of success for the Yankees. With the exception of a couple World War II seasons, the Yankees smoothly transitioned from Combs to DiMaggio to Mantle, all Hall of Famers. In that 42-year stretch, the average Yankee center fielder had a .303 batting average, .388 on-base percentage, slugged .511, and was worth 5.6 wins above replacement. Just 4 players reached all those marks in 2019. Christian Yelich, Cody Bellinger, Anthony Rendon, and Ketel Marte. Imagine that quality of play for 42 years. We're nearly halfway through the Yankees' 100-year center field dynasty, but we've already covered the big obvious names in DiMaggio and Mantle. You didn't need me to tell you they were good at baseball. That was a given. But now, we're entering a period that created flashes of elite talent with zero continuity. This video's about to get way more interesting. Joe Pepitone, I hope that's how you say his name. That's the man who was asked to fill Mickey Mantle's center field role in 1967. He was already a 3-time All-Star with the Yankees, but had mostly played first base for them. Now, he was going to play one of the most difficult spots on the diamond. And Mr. Pepitone could hit, but he was ultimately not cut out for the defensive responsibilities, generating seasons of -9 and -6 total zone defensive runs. Ron Woods took over the spot in 1969. He could field, but he couldn't hit, reaching exactly 200 plate appearances to fulfill the requirements for a Mathis. Still, his defense kept him around replacement level. Then came an answer, Bobby Murcer, a smooth-hitting lefty who patrolled center in Yankee Stadium from 1970 to 1974. His 1971 campaign proved to be his best effort, as he led the American League in OPS. And among the league's center fielders during this 5-year stretch at that position for the Yankees, he finished first in homers and second in OPS behind Willie Mays, who I guess was like 63 years old at the time. Following Mercer's trade to the Giants, next in line was Elliot Maddox, who performed admirably for 2 seasons in the mid-70s. He ended up being traded to the Orioles. The churn continued in the form of Mickey Rivers. Rivers batted .299 in 4 seasons as the Yankees' main center fielder, and served as the leadoff hitter for the Bronx Bombers World Series championships in 1977 and 1978. But he too was traded midway through the 1979 season, opening the door for Jerry Mumphrey. And although Murcer, Maddox, Rivers, and Mumphrey aren't legends of the game, they all did great things during their tenure as Yankees center fielder, combining to receive MVP votes 9 times. But Steinbrenner needed his superstar, and in December 1984, he got him via trade. This player had always played left field, but obviously had the speed to play the premium outfield position. Rickey Henderson was about to play center field for the New York Yankees. Rickey immediately challenged the idea of Yankees exceptionalism. The bright lights, the big market, the rabid media, it's overwhelming for some, but Rickey's first season in New York turned out to be perhaps the second best of his entire career, trailing only his 1990 MVP campaign with Oakland. He roamed center field in all but 2 games and excelled there to the tune of +13 total zone runs above average. Of course, that wasn't going to stop Rickey from being Rickey. He wished only to be managed by Billy Martin, whom the Yankees fired after the 1985 season. When Martin returned to the club in 1988, Henderson responded by swiping 93 bags, a franchise record. But Martin was fired again halfway through that season, typical, and Rickey was traded back to Oakland midway through 1989. In total, he played just over half his Yankees career in center field, and that 9.9 WAR season in 1985 was the highest by any center fielder since Mantle retired. Nobody would top 10 wins above replacement until 20-year-old Mike Trout was like, "Hey, ever wonder what Mickey Mantle would look like on two good knees? Well, now you know." The Yankees center fielders didn't lack talent in the 70s and 80s, but they did lack continuity. No one had been the Yankees' main center fielder for more than 4 years since 1966, the year Mickey Mantle last played the position. That was about to change. The Yankees were soon blessed with a permanent fixture in center. In 1990, one of their top prospects had an impressive year in Double-A, racking up an on-base percentage over .400 and swiping 39 bags. It was Bernie Williams. Bernie split time between Triple-A and the majors between 1991 and 1992, but established himself as an everyday player in '93. The Yankees came into that year having suffered 4 consecutive losing seasons, but they began to turn things around. In 1994, the Yankees had a 6.5-game lead over the Orioles before the strike cut their season short. In 1995, they made the playoffs but ran into the documentarian's dream, Seattle Mariners, a team that was playing for their very existence. What followed next was, quite simply, a return to form. In an 8-year stretch from 1996 to 2003, the Yankees won 6 pennants and 4 World Series. And although this new Yankee dynasty was headlined by the likes of Jeter and Rivera, they were also guided by the elite hitting of Bernie Williams. He wasn't a great defender by the advanced metrics, although he still won 4 Gold Gloves, so maybe I just don't know anything. But the man raked his front lawn, and also was good at hitting. During the new Yankee dynasty, Bernie led MLB center fielders in hits, batting average, and on-base percentage, was 2nd in RBI, 3rd in slugging, and 5th in homers. Keep in mind, he shared this terrific stretch with other great center fielders like Ken Griffey Jr., Johnny Damon, Andruw Jones, Kenny Lofton, Jim Edmonds, and Steve Finley. And even if he wasn't a terrific defender, he occupied center deep into his career, starting over 1,800 games there. Bernie Williams had over 2,000 hits in games when he was specifically playing center field, as well as an .866 OPS. The only other players with 2,000 hits and an .800 OPS in games they played center field are Joe DiMaggio, Willie Mays, and Ken Griffey Jr. And then there's Bernie. This factoid best sums up his career. He was a center fielder through and through. Since 2005, it has been a mixed bag for the Yankees in center. They signed a shockingly shaven Johnny Damon after Bernie Williams retired, but he really only played 1 season of center field for them. Melky Cabrera somehow played center for their 27th World Series in 2009, and Jacoby Ellsbury, I don't even have to say anything about that one. But there's also been a dose of greatness. Curtis Granderson gave the Yankees some of the best years of his wonderful career. In 2011 and 2012, he became just the 5th center fielder with back-to-back 40-homer seasons, putting him in pretty elite company. 2018 Aaron Hicks made a case for being the 2nd best center fielder in the American League behind Trout, and franchise mainstay Brett Gardner did a wonderful job in center with Hicks injured last year. The end result is 100 seasons of fantastic center field play from the Yankees. Of the 16 franchises that existed in 1920, Yankees center fielders lead those teams in pretty much every category you can imagine. And while the likes of Mantle and DiMaggio certainly do some heavy lifting here, it has been a composite effort from everyone who ever stood in center field for the Yankees. That includes legends like Babe Ruth, Rickey Henderson, and even Ichiro. They're all part of that history. There's also the possibility of more greatness on the horizon. This is Jasson Dominguez, a 17-year-old prospect with a superhero physique. The Yankees signed this actual teenager for $5 million out of the Dominican Republic. And his sheer size and strength has already earned him comparisons to Bo Jackson, Yasiel Puig, and Mike Trout. Dominguez hasn't played pro ball yet, but his out-of-this-world tools have earned him the nickname El Marciano, the Martian, and he may very well be a franchise cornerstone in center field for the Yankees someday. So, that's it. We've talked about Yankees center fielders past, present, and even future, but there's one more story to tell. It was October 1st, 1961, the final game of the regular season. Mickey Mantle was injured, he often was, so another mainstay in the Yankees outfield slid over to his spot in center that day. His name was Roger Maris, and he hit this home run. number 61. To this day, it's the most home runs anyone has hit in a season without having to testify to Congress about it later. And it was a milestone reached by someone playing center field for the New York Yankees. Next time you watch the Yankees, take note of who's standing in center field. It could be a club legend, flashy young prospect, or even just a simple utility player. But in the very act of standing in center field at Yankee Stadium, they are part of something much greater than themselves, and they're building upon a legacy that began when the Bambino himself took center field on opening day 100 years ago. Elmer Miller and Whitey Witt. This episode of Baseball Bits was brought to you by Topps MLB Bunt. Topps MLB Bunt is a baseball card app that allows you to rip open packs featuring your favorite players, as well as trade with baseball fans around the world. The app gives out constant freebies. You can even spin the wheel multiple times a day to win guaranteed prizes. On top of this, unwanted cards can be crafted into rare pools. Topps is currently running an exclusive Derek Jeter event in honor of his MLB debut 25 years ago, and you won't want to miss out on these special, limited time cards. You can install Topps MLB Bunt using my link in the description. Take care.